This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris, and this is the first in a two-part episode on key lime cupcakes. Today I'm going to be baking the cupcake part, and I'm going to be making this really delicious and light white cupcake. First thing we want to do is get our cupcake pan ready, and I'm using a 12-cup muffin pan that I'm going to put some paper liners in. You know, when I first got this baking pan, it's a non-stick pan, and it was really releasing the cupcakes and muffins that I made really well, especially when the tops sort of baked over onto the baking pan. Well, as the last few months have gone by, I found that the finish has not been releasing as I would like. So what I'm going to do today to help that is I'm just going to take a little bit of my baking spray, and I'm just going to spritz very lightly the top of the pan. That way, should any of the cupcakes puff up over the side, they'll still release really easily from the pan. Now I'm going to set my pan aside, and I'm going to start getting our batter ready. Now, since this is a white cake that we're making, we're going to be using egg whites. So I'm separating out 3 egg whites. And I'm going to take those whites and I'm going to add it to a half a cup of 2% milk. And I'm going to whisk that up just a little bit to try to break those whites up. And then to that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now over in my mixer, I'm going to start getting my dry ingredients together. Now for this white cupcake, we're going to be using cake flour. Now cake flour is different than all-purpose flour. It's lighter and has less gluten in it. And if you have trouble finding cake flour where you live, if you go to our website, you can find a little quick recipe on how you can make your own cake flour. But for this, all I'm going to do is lighten it up, and then I'm going to dip in my 1 cup measuring cup and level that off. And in my mixing bowl, I'm going to put that 1 cup in plus 2 more tablespoons of the cake flour. Then I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to turn the mixer on and just let those ingredients mix together. Now I have 6 tablespoons of butter out of the refrigerator, and I'm going to cut it into some cubes by cutting it in lengthwise twice and then running my blade through it. It makes these nice little cubes of butter. I'm going to add that to my flour, and I'm going to turn this on a low speed. Now what's going to happen is the butter is going to start to break down into the flour. Now after a few minutes, you're going to see the butter has just totally broken down into that flour. It just looks like crumbs. Now at this point, I'm going to have the mixer still on a slow speed, and I'm going to take my liquid ingredients and I'm just going to slowly pour that in. And now I'm going to turn the speed up, and I'm going to let this mix for about 2 minutes. Now about halfway in, I'm going to stop the mixer for just a second and scrape down the sides of the bowl just in case there's any butter or anything, and then continue beating for the last minute. Now I'm going to take my mixer bowl off, and with my spatula I'm going to give it one last mix up. It's a really pretty white batter. And now we're going to fill our cupcake wells. Now I want to make sure to get 12 cupcakes, so I want to evenly divide the batter amongst my wells. So I'm going to use a 1/4 cup measuring cup, and I'm going to dip that into my batter, and I'm going to put about 1/4 cup of batter to start in each well. If you have a little bit left over, just top off the cupcakes. These end up being about 3/4 of the way full. Now, if you have any drips on your pan, you are going to want to just pick those up with a paper towel. Now, I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees, and I'm going to bake these for about 18 minutes, but I will test them with a toothpick at that point and see if they're baked through. Now, as they come out of the oven, we want to take a toothpick and pop it right in the center. It comes out totally clear, so these are baked through. So I'm going to let them sit here for about 5 minutes right in the pan. Now, with a fork, I'm going to pop these cupcakes out and put them on my cooling rack. We're not going to be able to frost them until they're totally cool, and that can take up to about an hour. Now, I'm finding that I did have a couple of cupcakes where the batter sort of welded itself to the pan, but because of that little spritz, they're popping out really easy. So that's a good tip. Now, in our next episode, we're going to be making our key lime frosting and decorating these cupcakes. But in the meantime, if you want to get the recipe, just go to our website and visit the Cupcake show notes, and I'll have it there for you. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. I'll see you next time.